It seems like we've worked on a lot of theories of writing. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. And that also means taking into consideration what an editor might think. And when you're talking about editors, the most important thing to remember is the hook. I can't stress this enough. Editors and publishers, no matter who they are, want to find a reason to reject your work. They're busy. More manuscripts come in than they can review, so they want to get past yours and go on to the others. This means you have to nab them on the first page. No matter how well you write, if you don't hook them in right away, no one will ever read your book. Sorry. This means you need to approach writing your book in a different way. It's doable. I hope all of you read The Lovely Bones. If you haven't, pick it up. You'll see what I mean by simply reading the first 5 pages. If the author had chosen to put the rape scene in its chronological place, the book may never have been published. But anybody reading the first few pages has to buy that book. People don't invest their time in anything they don't deem to have value. They make this decision within the first few minutes. I'm a website designer, and it's the same thing. If you don't convince them the website is worthwhile in the first few seconds, they're gone. They've clicked a link, and they're off. Readers are the same. They read the first few lines, and from that, they determine whether they want to read more. I know that's not fair, but that's the art in writing a novel. Your hook is your lasso. Rope 'em in. So, how soon do you actually need to get their attention? The first 3 chapters is what every editor will automatically ask you for. That should tell you something. You've got to convince an editor within the first 3 chapters. But I can tell you that when I first got published, I believe they decided they wanted my book a lot sooner than that. Probably in the first 3 pages, at least. But let's remember how editors really are. They're busy. They've got a queue full of manuscripts. My guess is that by the 2nd paragraph, they've seen how you write, and if they're not impressed yet, I doubt they'll read the 3rd paragraph. You figured it out. You've got to give somebody reason to read past the first 3 lines. The end of the first 3 chapters is where you must have all of your major characters introduced and all of the major plot lines established. In other words, it must be somewhat obvious where the story will head and who will be involved. Why? It's just an industry standard. Remember I mentioned that editors typically want the first 3 chapters? Major characters are those who will affect the outcome of the plot. You can have lots of characters, but they are only major if their actions change the direction of the storyline. When you're talking about romances, the hero and the heroine are normally the only major characters. In a romance, they are the only ones who can make the happy ending. Minor characters can be very important to your writing. Quite often they are the mechanism you use to get the major characters to reveal things about their innate characters. Remember in Pretty Woman how the concierge in the hotel brought out so much of Julia Roberts' character? And do you remember Richard Gere's lawyer friend making a pass at Julia Roberts? The author used the concierge and the lawyer to reveal certain facets of the major characters' personalities. In other words, they were pawns. Let's go back to the first 3 chapters of your novel. We said that all major characters and plot lines had to be introduced, so that means a lot has to happen in these first few chapters. And, most of all, you need to leave the reader with wanting to know more. How do you get their attention? Leave some doubt. Leave something for them to wonder about. Spark their curiosity. Allude to something the reader doesn't know about. Now this is tricky, because at the same time you're trying to get them curious, you also have the responsibility of setting up the story. You have to give the reader basic information about the hero or heroine's life. You have to let the reader know enough about the characters' lives to imagine what these characters are like. Now, I'd like you to read the first page of Zebulon, the first novel I published.